Welcome to episode 93 of the Gaming Persona podcast. This is the show that explores who we become when we play games. I'm your host, Dr. Gameology, from Twitch and grad school classrooms across the country, and I'm joined by all of us are here, of my best friends from my gaming journey, Jenny LeBron and Jean Wong. So, friends, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm excited to be here.
I am tired. I had to do some emergency snow shoveling because my wife got stuck in a driveway.
Oh no!
There are worse places she could have gotten stuck. The driveway
Yeah.
is right there.
Yeah, it was a kind of a pitiful view. Like you see the car chugging up the hill, and it just kind of it's like it got stuck in quicksand almost. It's like that kind of experience. And so
Oh
it's just
no.
sitting there struggling to go nowhere. So I had to go out there and unearth the car.
I learned as a child to be terrified of quicksand, so.
You know, I owe you an apology, Gene. I listened to last week's episode at least 4 times doing the different things I do with it. And the beginning of it, I felt like I had not shown you enough compassion for how much you're freezing. And
I am adapting to the cold well enough. It is the elements that is the enemy now.
Sure, I'm just saying that it sounds like it sucks. You look warmer than you were last week. Jenny, he had to go the whole day with no electricity in sub 30 degree weather.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's it was a survival experience.
How appropriate for last week.
Yeah, had to shiv someone in the neck.
You followed your own advice. So, have you watched The Last of Us, Gene?
I still have not. I still don't have an HBO subscription.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jenny, have you watched the first 2 episodes? What do you think since you didn't get to do that with us last week? Just give us like 2 minutes of what could have been.
So I only watched the first episode. The second one was available when I watched the first, but it was late and I needed to watch cartoons. So
Aw, so adorable.
so I didn't get to it. And also the name of the second episode just tells me how much anxiety I'm about to experience. So I was like, I don't think I can handle another one. It was really good. I remember a little bit about the intro to the game because I had watched it before. And it seemed like it really followed the game quite well. And I enjoyed all the characters so far. Yeah, so far it's a really engaging first episode. It was very long, which was nice. It's kind of like a movie. So I'm actually I don't remember exactly what happens in the storyline. I'm sure if as I keep watching, it'll jog my memory. But I am engaged. So
All right, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I mean, the first episode or the prologue when you're playing it in the video game, right there, that told me that this game is going to matter to me. And for better or worse, it really matters to me. So I'm very happy after the second episode. I can't wait to talk to both of you once we've all watched it. Either by the end of the season or next week. It's up to Gene at this point.
And by watched, I say watched in the most loosest terms possible because this was me the entire time is watching it through my fingers. I don't know if you heard that because I was covering my mouth, but
they can see it now.
For those of you that are watching, you can see what I just did. I put my hands over my eyes. I watched it through my eyes, especially the part where the neighbor, like the grandmother, was in the background. Oh my god, that part. I was so scared. I was so scared that my boyfriend almost was like, "Do we need to turn this off? It's totally fine if you can't watch it." No, I'm gonna do it.
You know the jump scare reveal that it's aliens in the movie Signs, where you're
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, that it kind of reminded me of that. Um,
Yeah. It's, like, very subtle, but the most creepy feeling ever, and I remember watching the movie Signs and just, like, actually screaming and jumping at that part, and it's not that serious, it's just, like, a little dude walking by, but it's like, the build up to it is terrifying, and I felt the
Also,
same.
the zombie reveal in the mansion of Resident Evil 1, where you walk down a hallway and get to a corner and it turns into a cinematic, and you just see a body over a dead body, and they're just nibbling. And then
The
they like,
sounds.
yeah, I know. I'm really into this. And then the zombie
No.
just turns and looks at you, and it's all like not a nice looking human face. I feel
Mm.
like we got that on the, was it the kitchen floor once you go inside the
Yeah, yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah.
So there's little similarities to the horror we know. And then it's also The Last of Us, which is definitely a survival horror game that we know. And it's amazing. It's going to change my life. And everything Pedro Pascal does except for Wonder Woman is gold.
Ah, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
No.
What a show.
Yeah. So we need to do our first segment, The Ordinary World, where we share everyday life through our games. So we broke from tradition a little bit more today. We didn't do our full intro, but that's fine. Everyone knows that they can find our show on Apple, Spotify, Google. Give us 5-star reviews, share the podcast, help us grow. Actually, everyone is doing an amazing job. I haven't told either of you this, but last week was our best first week download week ever.
Wow.
Cool.
Yes. So that is really awesome for our show. Thank you so much, everyone who helped that happen. We just got to keep doing what we're doing. We're in maintenance mode now. Well, wait. Maintenance mode when you're a counselor is a good thing. Maintenance mode when you're an MMO player is very sad. I mean the counseling version of maintenance. Like, we've accomplished
Mhm.
the big goals. We just got to keep it going.
All right.
All right. So who'd like to start us off about their week in gaming?
Sure, I'll go.
Go
I
ahead.
made some more progress with my wife in co-op Elden Ring.
I'm so jealous that I'm not a part of that, by the way.
It's I mean, it's not for it would be massively overkill to have both of us co-op with her because I mean, we're both several hundred levels.
I'm in the 600s, Gene.
Yeah. It's
I love Massive Overkill, though. That's like my middle name, Daniel Massive Overkill Kaufman.
oh, okay. But yeah, it's I mean, for her, she's not good at platforming. So actually the biggest challenge of last week was jumping across those rooftops in the Academy of Raya Lucaria. There was a lot of death falling off the roofs.
So is she going to do the Frenzied Flame ending?
I have no idea yet.
Jenny, for context, the Frenzied Flame ending has a giant tower where all the floors have fallen because it's a derelict, decrepit tower that goes deep underground. And there's just no platforms. But there are random beams that have survived the tear of time. So you have to fall very skillfully, like Datacron hunting.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
My favorite.
And there's actually 2 of the endings that you can only get by surviving that, if I'm correct. One is the evilest, most chaotic evil ending. And then there's another one that's you have to find a whole hidden realm that's in a wall that disappears when you strike it, right, Gene? That's also down there?
Yeah.
The Fia ending?
Oh, well, you don't have to go that way for the Fia ending.
Well, that's how I went. I did it twice. Is there an
Okay.
easier way to get to her?
Yes.
Shut up. I don't want to hear it. Okay. That makes me so mad. I had a weird thought, and this is kind of Ordinary World because it's the gaming persona. So I'm Dr. Gameology on this show. Sometimes I'm Daniel Kaufman, but like for all intents and purposes, my name is Dr. Gameology. And then I introduced both of you as Gene Wong and Jenny LeBron, but both of you have gaming names in Discord that I know, and I just wondered if that ever bothers either of you, and we should have both our superhero names and our real people names.
It does not bother me in the
Yeah.
slightest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's some random thing I thought about earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, I love my, gamer tag. It's I use it sometimes at Starbucks in line,
I know you
but
do.
Nice.
on the show, I like to be Jenny.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
fun.
Did you play anything else, Gene?
Oh, I picked a random game out of my PS Plus catalog, and I ended up with Team Sonic Racing from
Oh, no.
from the illustrious line of video games featuring
Illustrious.
featuring Sonic. Ironically, Team Sonic Racing is arguably an okay Sonic game because a common complaint about a lot of Sonic games is that you don't go fast.
Mhm.
For some reason, most Sonic games nowadays don't go fast. So a racing game, ironically, does make you go fast.
Okay.
How did you do a random game choice on your PlayStation account?
I kind of just rolled a die. I just rolled a D100. I have a D100.
Oh, that's
Okay.
good. All
Fun.
right. Jenny,
So,
what have you been up to?
speaking of D100s, I played Magic the Gathering. Um, we drafted the newest set. A friend of ours bought the group of us that play a box of the newest set that I don't remember the name of. There's lots of artifacts in this set, and we each got, I think there were 6 of us, so we each got 6 packs to open, which that's my favorite thing to do anyway.
Yes.
And we used those cards to make our decks, and I won 4 times. So
Awesome.
I was undefeated with my terrible deck. I have no idea how it beat everyone, but it did some pretty cool things, so I was happy about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I have 2 video game activities for this week. I did accidentally hit level 90 on Summoner this afternoon. I was not, yeah,
Accidentally.
I was not streaming. The number for my level bar, my EXP bar at the bottom, was so small, I thought I was level 88.
No.
So I did a dungeon and then I leveled up. And then when I was signing out to end my lunch break, I opened my character card to check my gear and see if I needed to repair it, and it said I was level 90. And so I felt really bad because I like to hit that moment on stream.
Yeah.
So I have a level 90 summoner now and scholar. So there's just one healer class left, and that's Sage. So I guess that's going to be the next one I go after. And in God of War Ragnarok, I found the Crucible and have been fighting all the challenges in there because I'm pretty sure the next time I step through the portal door to advance the story, it's going to be the final part of the story. So I had a major plot twist that hit me during my stream this week. I loved it. I was completely caught off guard by it, and it really sets up Ragnarok happening and the characters having to make some choices and decide to fight. And it's God of War, so the fighting is amazing, and I'm really enjoying it, and I hope to finish it soon. So, all in all, if you put the 3 of us together, we have a really eclectic game mix this week, which is awesome. So, let's go ahead and do the call to adventure. This is where we get into our topic for the week. So, since the last episode of the Gaming Persona, 2 Persona games have become much more easier for the world to play. And that is Persona 4 Golden, the first one I ever played, and Persona 3 Portable. And since our show has the word persona in the title, every episode, I figured this would be a good week to highlight some of the best things about the Persona series, why we love it, and talk about why these three games being playable is a big deal for the gaming community across the country and globally. So, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to send this directly at you, Gene, because it's your fault that
My
I
fault.
even that I even played any Persona games in the first place. Arguably you plus a podcast I was listening to in the
Okay.
2010s when the Vita came out and was a living device made me decide I'm going to play that. So, Gene, tell me a little bit about um, you know, Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 and 3 and why these games matter to you.
Uh, Ultimately, it is the hmm, it is the total freedom of choice that that is offered by these games. Your character starts off as pretty much a blank slate with just the barest hint of personality.
Mhm.
Um, and it is up to you, your dialogue choices, the daily task you do, whether you decide to go read a book or go work out at the gym or go eat a hamburger. Like all of these mini minute tasks that you do make your character's personality and shape their outlook on life.
Yeah, so this series, the Persona part of the series spun off of Shin Megami Tensei, right? Am I
Yes.
understanding that? So
Yes.
do the first two games belong to the Shin Megami Tensei franchise, but they also are the first two Persona games? Is that how it
Uh
works?
no, the first two games are definitely more like the Shin Megami Tensei games in the sense that they are more focused on the dungeon crawl aspect and less on the social building aspect. But Persona 2 kind of started toying with that idea because Persona 2 had the concept of when you speak words into the world, the game had a rumor system. You would spread rumors into the populace, and the rumors would take a life on their own and make things happen in the game.
Like in the Umbrella Academy?
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's so cool. That,
And so
that
that was the
wow.
first game that really toyed with the talk to NPCs to shape your reality concept for that the rest of the series now does.
Okay. So these games, did they start in the late 90s or early 2000s?
The late 90s. Yeah, Persona 1 was a late 90s PS1 game.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Jenny. I want you to know, Jenny, that a lot of the games we've bonded over and played together have a system where you make dialogue choices towards some of the other characters. And that really does shape the experience by building a relationship between your character and the teammate character. And based on timeline, Persona did that before BioWare did it with Knights of the Old Republic. Maybe does Baldur's Gate, the original entry in that franchise, have this? Probably. So Persona is in the list of games that originated this as a game mechanic in a
Hmm.
way. And I know SWOTOR was the first game we ever played together. So I kind of see a connective thread when I think about these games. So I'm going to ask you, why does that matter? Like, I know you haven't played a Persona game yet, but you could because it's probably on a system that you have access to, like Steam. They're all available on Steam now. Um, you see, I wish I got paid by Steam to say that, but I don't. But my point is, that's a big deal because these games were locked behind dead consoles until this week. Or, Persona 5 was on the current consoles, but 3 and 4, you'd have to find somewhere else to play them. So, you know, I gave you a trailer to watch before, and I got to see your face while you were watching it. So what did you think about the things you saw, and what are some of the things you noticed while you were watching the Persona 5 Royal trailer?
Well, I have my experience with the game. I haven't played it, but that was the game that you were playing during quarantine.
Yeah.
And I did watch you play that quite a few times. Um, I can't say that I really remember much of like the mechanics of the game or the storyline of the game. Um, but I do know that that is the impetus for our podcast that has the name in the title.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I when I was watching the trailer, I mean it makes sense to me why this is a game that you love, and that means
Are
so
you
much
going to
to
do
you.
psychoanalysis for me, Jenny? Tell the
Not
world.
quite.
It
I'm
makes
not
sense that you love this game.
no, I am not qualified for that. But yeah, just the idea of personas and one of the things that it highlighted in the trailer was wearing the mask and revealing your truth and these are things that are a mask is um something that wearing a mask is something that you talk about in psychology. Um, so yeah, I know there are certain parts of the game that do a great job of just explaining some of these concepts and making them fun. And yeah, I think it's a really cool franchise. And I do love that um, it started the whole choose your own adventure trend. I didn't know that was the origin of that. Maybe not exact origin, but
The dialogue tree system is
Mhm.
half of the game, is
Yeah.
getting your character into the right rooms on certain days to talk to people and advance your connection to the non-playable or the party member character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's amazing, and sometimes it's morally terrible, and yet we do it anyway.
Yeah. Sometimes you eat hamburgers like every day of the week for some stat buffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it also kind of plays into, I mean, you mentioning you have to be here at this place at this time to meet with this person. That's kind of like how real relationships work. Like you have to interact with people in your life. And um, yeah, I think it's a good simulator for that kind of stuff.
I have had actually a counseling session with a person who played Persona and loved them, and he mentioned it first and
Mm.
was trying to make progress in some of those kinds of things with real life goals. And so I used the calendar system of Persona to emphasize to him that you are more than capable of accomplishing these goals. You just
Yeah.
have to take your real calendar as seriously as you take the Persona calendar.
Hmm.
And if you're not sure what your calendar has in it, you look it up. Just like if you're not sure how to have the perfect January 25th in real life, you look it
Hmm.
up. And this is a conversation that happens all the time, is if we put the same effort into life that we put into mastering our video games, we're going to do great.
Yeah, that's an empowering like way to look at it.
Yeah, but both of you almost pushed me into some ideas that definitely belong on the road of trials where we face our challenges and discover our strengths. So, on the topic of having conversations that sometimes are amazing and sometimes are pretty awful, and yet your character enjoys them anyway. Persona 5 Royal is the first game that comes to mind, where you are doing your best to fight back against social injustices, and yet some social injustices are just fine if you're the one benefiting from them. So for example, the very first dungeon in that game, you are trying to steal the heart and destroy the employability of a corrupted gym teacher who is sexually assaulting and coercing female students and physically abusing male athletic students. Not a good guy. And yet later in the game, you enter into a relationship through one of the arcanas that you can level up with your own teacher. And you make that go all the way through to however fun you want that dynamic to be. So you never really see the dirty parts, but it's heavily implied, and the dialogue lines up with it, and so it kind of creates this sort of double standard where it glorifies the teenager being able to do that with an adult, but then the adult doing it with the teenager is a social no-no. And I just think Persona has lots of things where when you really think about it, it's kind of like, oh, that's pretty awful. Why do I like this? Um, and yet the anime style of the scenes, the cut scenes are done as a anime that plays in front of you, but then it lines up back with the gameplay, which keeps that same stylized approach. And it's just neat. So as far as a video game goes, it's great to look at. It's fun, and I think that fun kind of alters your opinion of the fact that you just killed a demon who is sitting on a toilet while he fights you.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are there other games that come to mind when we bring up things like social justice issues, like the abuse of students or politicians abusing power and corrupting an entire society, or even the fact that the final boss in Mementos, which is the underworld of Persona 5, is essentially a holy grail that is wanting to kill you?
Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
So when I thought about this question, I thought about God of War and how Kratos is just this like depiction of masculinity in the most toxic sense.
oh, like the early
um,
God of Wars?
yes, yes, yes. Where
Yeah.
like he's just this rage monster. And then I forgive me, I don't know which one they introduced his son. Um,
2018.
there we go. That's the one I watched you play.
Yeah.
Um, and it kind of gives like a different dimension to him. He's not just this toxic masculine dude. He's also a father. And how does that influence his how he treats his son and how
He had
his
to
son
die
plays into
4
his life.
times to learn this lesson because he
I
dies
mean,
in
it's
every
tough.
game.
That's
I
a
would just
tough
like
thing
to
to
add that if
battle.
I'm the one playing on a high difficulty, he has to die about 12,000 times to learn that lesson.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the one I thought about. And then also, of course, Last of Us. It's pretty obvious that the government is not the savior
Mm,
in that series. So
yeah. The Last of Us is really perfectly situated to give the player moral dilemmas repeatedly.
mhm.
Whereas Persona, the moral dilemmas are fun while you play them, and then when you're trying to talk to someone, maybe at dinner, who's not playing it, and you hear the things you're talking about, and it's like, oh, wait, I'm a terrible person now.
Yeah.
Um, th- you
Yeah, I
know,
mean describing what I did to Vet, it's in Star Wars: The Old
Dot,
Republic.
dot, dot. Any SWTOR player can finish that sentence and it goes to the
Yeah.
same place.
It sounds pretty bad.
Well, I'm not going to talk about what I did to Vet, Jenny.
Fade to black.
All right. Gene, what do you think about with social justice issues and other games, maybe that Persona has similarities with or completely different?
I guess completely different. I've played a game called Frostpunk. Frostpunk is a colony survival simulation game. Basically, the Ice Age has come about, and the survivors are building a shelter to wait it out. And as the governor of this situation, you have to make some really tough decisions on how you want to manage the colony. So things that come up, like things like, what do you do with the kids? Do you make them turn? Do you increase your productivity of all your buildings by putting the children to work, or you try to put them in the schools? If you make schools, you have to spend the resources to build those schools, which is less resources you could put towards coal mines to help you not freeze to death. And then there's other things like, someone got hurt in the coal mines. What do? Do you amputate them and retire them? Or do you, again, spend more resources to try to build them prosthetics so they can go back to work in the coal mine? There's a lot of decisions like that drastically alter the way your colony behaves.
It also helps you access that mentality of all these people are part of my colony and my colony needs to function, which is kind of the way the government probably sees all of us and why some of their decisions end up being the way they are. And so on the individual level, we probably think a lot of those decisions suck and the government's not helping us, when actually there are probably helping decisions in there. They just haven't filtered through to impact the individual level the way we would hoped. But the society is functioning, and maybe that's a win.
Yeah, and the end of a scenario when you beat it, they gives you like this montage of things, and it's like, well, you lived through the Ice Age, but you had to do these terrible things. This many people died under your rule. You made the children work in the mines, stuff like that. It kind of makes you think about your decisions at the end.
Interesting. So I want to relate that back to The Last of Us on HBO in the second episode. Oh, this might spoil something for Jenny. Anyway, I'm not going
It's fine.
to be.
I won't remember.
I'm not going to be specific, but there's a moment where you get more backstory about the initial outbreak that ruins the whole planet. And they bring in an academic, and she has studied similar viral things her entire career. She's well known, and she gets to take a look at one of the first infected bodies. And her conclusion to the military is bomb the city. All of it. They don't do it, and they sacrifice the planet. Mm-hmm. So this is not a scene that's in the video game because the video game experience is locked to Joel's perspective. Yeah. But being a TV show, you get more of that top-down view, like in a game like Frostpunk or the original Warcraft games or Civilization, where you're not worried about anything on the individual level. You want your city or society that you're building to thrive, survive, and conquer. And in a game like that, you do bomb entire cities if they're infected because they are just a lost resource and we can build something else in the crater. Heartless stuff.
Ouch. Ouch.
It's amazing. The government of Resident Evil 3 made the correct decision.
Raccoon City. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Gene, we went with Frostpunk before we went with Resident Evil on this show. Oh man. So anyway, video games are a really neat place to rehearse what it would be like to see the world differently and to get into an abstract mindset that we never would have a reason to think about, but in a hopefully harmless way, because it is just a game of fiction and it is just creative problem solving. So, if we're going with a moral panic angle, all of these massive, violent, wipe out the virus before it destroys the planet stuff could be a sign that video gamers think violent thoughts. But I don't really think that's it. I don't think that this moral panic is actually that we want to bomb large portions of the planet. I think it's just when given the power to solve a problem,
Mhm.
we consider the possible solutions. And then sometimes at the end of the game, we think, wow, that actually would be really crappy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we're
um,
just solving the puzzle there.
yeah. So, solving puzzles is always fun. I really enjoy getting to play new characters, be in new situations. Sometimes Persona in particular does make you deal with really dark and challenging ideas as well. And, I think that for me, I tried to stream Persona 3 this week and I ran into a trigger warning kind of problem because I was ambushed by content in the game that I wasn't anticipating what it actually would look like. And so the way that the players of the SEES summon their personas is by taking a object that looks like a gun and looking like they fire it at their head, and then the persona comes out of their mind and does the attack. And every time you use a persona attack, which is any magic attack that's not your handheld weapon, you see this animation in the characters, which I don't really like because that looks like it's glamorizing the act of suicide. And
Mhm.
so seeing that 50 times on just in one stream worth of twitch.tv/Dr. Gameology is not something that I really want visually on my channel. I understand why they got away with deciding to do that because that hour of dungeon time doesn't actually exist. It's like a locked off supernatural moment in existence anyway, where everything is psychological in nature. That's my interpretation of it, playing only the first 2 hours of the game. Gene, you know everything about this game. Am I right in why these are not guns or why they are not dying when they do this to themselves?
It is a metaphorical gun in a sense. It
Right.
is the it is you it is the idea that you are killing your inhibitions that is holding back your persona. It is
Mhm.
because in Persona 5, that act was ripping off your
Ripping the
face.
mask.
Well,
Yeah.
literally their face. Their face was covered in blood after he did it.
Oh, that's true. And in Persona
Yeah.
4, it's the fact that you're friends with an inflatable teddy bear.
Yes. But yeah, it's the equivalent of ripping off your face, but using a pseudo-scientific gun. It's supposed to unlock something in your brain.
But couldn't they have done that in a less graphic way?
I mean, when you get towards the end of the game, it's like the people. It's more like they realize they don't need this thing by the whole accepting yourself and your persona and all that junk. It's like, oh, I have overcome my inhibitions on my own. This was a crutch. I
Uh
don't
huh.
need this gun anymore.
Yeah. I wonder if other people who have a similar job to me or have the unfortunate experience of losing someone to actions like suicide are going to avoid this game over such a casual and repeated animation in these. They're not high resolution characters, right? They're very PS2 graphics. Um, I just I've been mentally wrestling with this all week. Is I love Persona. Persona 4 was my first game. There was nothing like that in that game. Persona 5 is just fun. Even even morally ambiguous fun. Like if you're just watching the game, nothing like that is in there. So that's been one of my challenges where I have to discover my strengths and overcome my inhibitions. And I just thought it would be healthy for me to talk about it on the show because I know other mental health professionals listen, and I know other people that have their own counseling listen, and I think Persona 3 probably is an amazing game, and I'm going to finish it, but I don't think it's going to be a stream game, and that's the reason why is
Mhm.
how do you do a trigger warning for an attack that's going to happen 3 times a minute every time I'm in a combat phase of the game?
Mhm.
When did this game originally come out?
The 2000s,
Mm.
like
Yeah, it was something like 2006
2006.
ish. Yeah, 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, we had Anakin rolling around in lava saying "I hate you," and My Chemical Romance hadn't broken up yet, and and
They're back together.
well, I know. So when they remake Persona 3, which is heavily rumored, do you think that that's going to be an animation that is able to come across our screens in 4K?
I don't know. That's what I was getting at when I asked when the game came out. I think it's something that probably was a lot more acceptable back then. But I also like the way that Gene described it and explained it, it makes sense, and it's a really interesting way to do that. But I do also agree with you that that's probably not a Dr. Gameology stream game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think they would bring it to 4K just because if they are still doing the idea that this is a shared multiverse, because Persona 3 and 4 are obviously linked because of the Persona Arena fighting games where they both appear in the same time in the
There's
same
also
place.
Persona Q that brought in
Yes.
all of them together, right?
Yeah. So it sets up that they're like the three teams of Persona 3, 4, and 5, their powers work in different ways. And it's the implication that all three teams are going to be necessary in the ultimate war against the negative energies of human beings or whatever. Because, Persona 5, they're fighting against the undercurrent of human negativity, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and apathy. Um, Persona 4 is basically how do I phrase this? Persona 4 is the what is it? I'm not sure how to word this.
We're just
The
jumping into our televisions and having experiences we weren't meant to have.
Right, but it's an idealization, a kind of false idealization because the plot is two guys are given supernatural powers and one uses it for extreme evil and another doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, and so like that's a I don't
It's
know how to
kind of
word it.
like Goro Akechi versus Joker
Right,
also.
right,
You have that kind of dynamic in 5 also. I don't know if you have that dynamic in 3, but having a shadow form as a foil to the main protagonist is a great fiction trope.
right. But no, 3 is the focus on an evil arguably evil corporation that has brought the things out of the metaverse and Midnight Channel realms into the real world. the Persona 3 characters are the only characters that can fight in the real world. The 3 and 4, the 4 and 5 characters, they have to go to their alternate dimensions to activate their power. So it's going to be a multi-front battle if it really culminates in a multiverse. The Persona 3 characters must do this thing by shooting themselves with the evokers, while the 4 and 5 characters jump into other dimensions.
Yeah, wear their glasses, rip their masks off,
Yeah.
talk to their cat. You know,
Yeah. I mean,
normal human stuff.
Yeah, arguably you can say they can do something else to bring their persona out of the Shadow Realm into the real world. But I mean, something dramatic, I guess, needs to happen. It would kind of make more sense if the games were released in reversed order, because it would be like, oh, the 4 and 5 sets up the personas behave this way, and then 3 says something really major has to happen to get the personas out of there into the real world. You know?
So they started with the big problem first.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just really I do enjoy the fact that the games tackle such tough issues, and they're issues that are society wide and also issues that tear families apart. Things like drug use and um, things like cartel behavior, things like abusing students, power dynamics and differentials, infidelity, things that you probably don't want to wake up and be like, I'm excited to do this. and Persona makes you a force for good to call people out and make them admit the things they do, even all the way up to the highest stations in society. And so if you're feeling, what's the word where you're just over it. I use this word to describe myself, but I don't remember what it is. How ironic. Jaded. That's what it is. Yeah, so if you're jaded and you play Persona, you're probably going to end the game feeling incredibly validated. So I'm gonna just make a call. Structure-wise, I don't think we have too much to do in the Ascent because we had such a good conversation on the Road to Trials. So let's go ahead and do the return so we can go back to our daily lives and take our next step forward. So this has been one of the most fun discussions about Persona. I think it's the third time we've attempted to do this. The other
It's
ones
like
are
a
good.
yearly tradition.
Yeah, the other ones are good, but this one, I think because the games came out and people can actually go play them if they're inspired to figure out what we're talking about, that's a cool feeling. So, Jenny, I'm gonna bring you back into this, based on just the last 3 or 4 little subtopics. Would you play one of these games if you had the chance?
Yeah.
Which one?
Absolutely. Persona 5 Royal, that's the one that you streamed?
Yeah, the talking cat, or do you want the
Yes.
inflatable teddy bear, or do you want the really dark, I don't think I remember what happiness is kind of story?
That one doesn't fit me, but I don't really understand the inflatable teddy bear thing.
Oh, he'll
So, but
understand you. That was innuendo, and yeah,
I don't know.
we're friends. So sorry, Jenny.
You're fine. Yeah, no, the Persona 5 Royal looked like a really fun, cool game, and I would totally play that game.
I almost forgot. I would not be Dr. Gameology if I did not bring this up. But one of the palaces in Persona 5 is a casino. And the casino is somebody who is a prosecutor's subconscious version of a courthouse. So you're actually in a courthouse, but you see the psychological world of a casino, meaning that the law.
Oh yeah, I saw that in
right?
the trailer.
Yes. And so you're going through a hallway at one point in the game, and the people who operate the machines from backstage in the maintenance hallways are programming which machines are going to win and which ones are going to lose, and watching all the players on the camera to coordinate the wins and losses across the floor of the slot machine room. And whether casinos do that or not, I'm not going to comment, but I'm just saying technology is such that they totally could do that. So the fact that somebody's subconscious world in Persona 5 thinks that is how it works has been interesting to me for the last 7 years.
I love it.
Yeah, so don't gamble. Winning phase is not going to stay with you in the long run. Sorry for the pessimism, but you came to the show for what you got. So, Gene, are you going to replay any of these games? With achievements?
I am certainly considering playing Persona 3 Portable again. But not immediately. I need to get some games done.
It is only $20 right now.
Team Sonic Racing.
Yeah, I gotta get through Team Sonic Racing.
I have a personal goal after I finish God of War. I want to finish my 6th playthrough of Elden Ring. I'm almost done with my chapter for the psychology of Elden Ring, and I've really been finding it helpful to go through the main fights and the main areas of the game while I'm writing parts of that chapter, because those are the things that create the hero's journey dynamic in that game. And just getting to see them and then immediately go into writing has been really good. Problem is, if I get stuck, it's going to take me longer to write the chapter that way. And that's not my goal. So I'm not going to get stuck.
No, you're not.
I will overcome my inhibitions and conquer Elden Ring for the 6th time. All right. So if these conversations sound fun to you and you're looking for some great people to play online games with, maybe Jenny, definitely me, check out AIE at aie-guild.org. And I have one last quest for everyone to collect for the day. Well, not really. They'll never see it coming. And continue the journey.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
That was pretty good. I hope everyone enjoys all the tough ideas from Persona.
Yeah. And child labor for Frostpunk.
Oh, man. Now our show's going to be about that.